Okay, so I'm going to explain my attempt at my front end wheel alignment using this particular tool. It's a 10 holes in alignment, front end alignment contraption, for lack of a better word. So what you get with the product, it's like for this particular unit, it's a hands-free. It measures camber and caster. This is the measuring apparatus right here. Okay. You get some detailed instructions. Now I'm going to go over how to do it. I'm going to show a video clip of it. It's super sensitive, so you kind of chase tenths of a point. It kind of drives you mad after a little bit, but I generally have it down. The trick to it is marking where you put this on the wheel. The other thing that caused me problems was the eccentric bolts or eccentric washers or whatever you want to call them. They need to be torqued down, but you know, since you're constantly adjusting it, I didn't torque it down to spec each time, and I thought it was tight enough. But I think what was happening was I was torquing it down and then, you know, having to turn the wheel left and right, and that was actually making it loose. It was very confusing for a while because I was getting like the same numbers and they weren't going in the right direction, so I wasn't sure what I was doing right and wrong. Anyways, it took me literally 2 days to figure all this out, and I'm going to show, you know, what I ultimately got. This is kind of like two parts. One is how to use this particular tool, and the other one is how to use this tool in order to adjust caster and camber on the vehicle. In terms of toe, the 928, in order to adjust that, you need to change the tie rods, and so I didn't change my tie rods, so I'm assuming they're going to be the same, so I'm not going to change it. All right, so if you're interested in this particular company, the website, wheelalignmenttools.com, so all one word, wheelalignmenttools.com. I suggest going to their website and buying it. Okay, next I'm going to talk about camber is in or out. The top part is basically. So if it's in, it's negative camber. If it's out, it's positive camber. Caster is kind of how far forward the wheel is from the axle point. The specs for the 928. Camber is minus 30 minutes plus and minus 10 minutes. And then caster is 3 degrees, 30 minutes plus 30 minutes. And the delta between the two, right and left, driver and passenger, can only be 10 minutes and 20 minutes respectively. So there's a conversion for these for what this unit spits out, which is in like decimal points of degrees. Okay, this is my old ball joint, the eccentric whatever washers. I used this quite a bit to visualize what I was doing. So this one, okay, so this is on the passenger side. This one, from looking from underneath, is going to be camber. So if you can see where that bolt hole is, if you follow it, it can only do one thing, which is go this way and that way, right? So at this point, okay, at this point, this ball joint is as far possible that way as you can, which means the tire, the bottom part of the tire is going out, and so that's negative camber. And as you rotate it this way, right, it's bringing this way, so it's giving you positive camber. On the caster, the more this is this way is negative caster, or less caster, and then the more it's this way, it's positive caster. So in reference to this bolt, if the bolt is here, then that is pushing this way as much as possible, and therefore it is as much camber as possible. If it's this way, it's pushing that way, this that way, and this that way, right? And it's negative caster. It gets kind of confusing. I literally had to lay this down next to me underneath the car as I'm adjusting so that I could visualize it. So do what you will. This also can rotate all the way around, right? This can go all the way, depending on where this is set. This can rotate all the way around, and it basically does. So you basically just want to work in this area right here, from one extreme to the next. All right, this is what you'll need. You want to put some type of slippery material underneath both front tires. So I have some cardboard on this side and I have some cardboard on the other side. You need some kind of reference marker, ruler, whatever. I just have a really long level. In order to measure camber, I'm gonna put this on this wheel. You insert it right here. This level is just so you get an idea that this is straight up and down. And then you just turn it on. So it's reading negative 2.5. Okay, next, in order to measure caster, you want to get this more or less level. Make sure it's fully seated. This reference line right here, you want to reference to be parallel with that. So I'm going to turn the wheel clockwise until this reference point is parallel to the reference point I made. Once you have that, you bring this back. So we're going back to having it level. I'm going to mark where this sits exactly on this wheel. I'm going to rotate the wheel the other way and put it back to these exact points. So the last 2 days I've been doing it every which way. The directions don't say to do this. However, I believe, after thinking about it, this is the only way to get a true caster measurement. All right, so with that being said, again, you want to turn it on at this point, zero it, leave it on. You're going to come back to center. Now you're going to put this on the opposite way. You're going to turn the wheel outbound, and you can take this reference against this reference line. Then you're going to put these back at the exact same spots you had before when you zeroed it and read the measurement. 1.85. You multiply that by 2, and that gives you the caster in degrees. Okay, now I'm on the passenger side. I'm just going to show you how I do this because, again, everything's backward. Okay, we're at negative 0.5. Ah, shoot. Gonna mark these spots, then turn it on in 0. Again, this is the opposite way that it was before. Put it back, 2.35. Okay, so let me tell you what I got. On the driver's side, negative 0.35 degrees, that equates to negative 21 minutes. The spec is negative 30 minutes. The passenger is right on the spec, it's negative 30. Caster, on the driver's side, what you get on the readout, you have to multiply that by 2. So anyway, it's 3.7 degrees positive. And that equates to 222 minutes. The spec is 210 plus 30 minutes, which is 240. That's its max, okay? On the passenger side, the caster is off quite a bit. So it's at 4.7 degrees, which is 282 minutes. So that's as little as I can get on the caster on that passenger side. I've tried a number of times and it's basically as far in as I can go. All right. And that was kind of bothering me. However, I was reading this. It says up to 4 degrees, 30 minutes is acceptable. 4 degrees, 30 minutes translates to 270 minutes. So I'm close. And I'm going to take that as okay within the area of the equipment that I'm using. So what I'm going to do is bring up the caster on the driver's side as close as possible to the 282. And hopefully at the same time bring in the camber a little bit. Okay, these are 19 mil bolts. And you'll need an 8 mil Allen key to adjust the eccentric washers or bolts or whatever you want to call those. You also have to loosen both of them in order to change one or the other, because they move, otherwise you can't move it basically. So this is where I have to use this to kind of visualize what I'm doing. Right now it's set like this, okay? So I have some room. I want to get a little bit more negative camber, so I want this to move this way, okay, outbound. And I want more caster, so I want to rotate this out that way so that this goes that way, okay? So let's do the camber. Then caster, I want to go the other way. All right, and then I'm gonna go for a test drive. I do that because I just want to have everything settle in again before I take another measurement. Okay, these are my final numbers. On the camera on both sides, it's negative 0.25 degrees, which is 15 minutes. The spec is negative 30 plus or minus 10. I'm gonna call that good. The caster is what's off a little bit. So the spec on the caster is 200, it totals to 240 minutes, starting at 210. Okay, so on the driver's side, I'm fine. It's on the passenger side that I'm quite off on. I'm at the extreme by a little over 30 minutes. I'm gonna say I'm still okay because, like I said before, in this spec, it says 4 degrees, 30 minutes is acceptable, and that's about where I'm at, okay? It's just the delta between the two isn't where it needs to be. However, with all that being said, the car drives straight. It's driving correct. It doesn't pull to the right or left. It feels neutral. If you do this, I'm just gonna show you something. That's a bolt. Center that like that. While maintaining the bolt, if I do this, you can see how this is going to move. Okay? So going clockwise, this goes that way. So I believe caster is being reduced. Okay? The opposite way, counterclockwise. Okay, counterclockwise just pushes this, that pushes that way, and I believe caster is increased. Okay? Let's do the same thing with camber. Okay. When I start rotating this, watch where this goes. Oh man, that's not very good. But anyways, what's happening is this is going that way, okay? Which means it's pushing the bottom part of the wheel this way, which is increasing negative camber, okay? If I go the other way, counterclockwise, it's drawing it in, which is the bottom part of the tire, and it's increasing camber in the positive direction, okay? You may think that's super simple, but holy crap, it gets confusing when you're underneath the car and you're looking up and there's two different sides. It's confusing as F. Plus, I had this to aid me. If I'm down there and I didn't have this, like a sample one, I'd be chasing my tail. And I did for a while because, again, if you don't torque it down and you start turning one way or the other, it just goes crazy. Anyways, bottom line, the car drives straight. I think I'm more or less in the right ballpark. I'll check the tire wear if it does, tend to wear one way or the other, but I'm just happy with the fact that the car drives straight. It feels good. All right, that's it.